Good, beautiful, sunny Tuesday morning to you. And welcome to Light the Tower on the Horn, 1049, 1019 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My name is Craig Way. Glad to be back in town, if only for a couple of days. But glad to be back in town. Glad to be back with you. It was a wonderful trip to South Florida, but now it's getting ready for South Florida to Northern California. That'll be the case for the Longhorn baseball team. But a lot of things to get to on the program this morning. My co-host Jeff Howe will be along shortly. Our producer, our man behind the glass, is none other than Cameron Parker. How you doing today?
My head is on a swivel right now, Greg.
Yeah? Do tell.
Living the PGA Tour, merging. Everyone is shocked by this. I mean, even PGA Tour players didn't know this until this morning when they woke up and had a memo in their inbox. Hello.
Oh, by the way, we've merged. Wow. Yeah, I thought about you when I heard the breaking news come down this morning. If folks didn't hear about it, PGA Tour announcing they're going to merge with Live Golf. So all of the acrimony and all of that other kind of stuff, at least between the two sides, we'll cease. Now, with regard to those who are involved in terms of the players and things like that, remains to be said. I mean, you have been out front from the outset, correct me if I'm wrong, really down on and anti-live, correct?
Anti just the I like the format. I'm anti-Phil and Poulter and what those guys have been spewing since they joined. I understand why you joined. Varner and Koepka and DJ saying we just want to play less golf and make more money. I understand it. It's a business decision. Good for you. But when Phil Mickelson gets on his soapbox and says, oh, we're trying to grow the game. And no, you're just trying to make up for all the money you lost gambling. But in the end, Phil Mickelson, he won with this merger. Greg Norman, they won. And Jay Monahan, honestly, looks like a fool after saying all these anti-live things and how could they play it for Saudi Arabia, this and that. Well, now the PIF, the fund in Saudi Arabia that basically funded Live Golf, is now going to be a premier sponsor and is going to help fund the PGA Tour. So all of this jibber-jabber just for nothing, Craig, because at the end of the day, it was all just about money.
So do you feel a little, what is it Rod Babers likes to say, and Jeff has adopted that, what is it, bamboozled, led astray,
No.
What about that whole bit, hornswoggled? Do you feel a little bit deceived by all of it?
I don't think so. I think Monahan made a huge mistake in not merging with the Saudi Arabia Tour or even the Premier Golf League, which was the original Live Tour that was ended up just becoming the Live Golf Tour. He should have worked with them from the beginning because it just created all this drama really for no reason. And he's the one that's going to have to, pay for it at the end of the day because golf needed a switch up. Craig, there needed to be some changes to it. You cannot just have these monotonous tournaments every single week, 4 days a week. I mean, there's a time and place for it. You have the major championships. You have the elevated events. That's fine. But there's so many events that you're playing, especially after the FedEx Cup Championship, where the next week your season already starts again. It's not good for golf. It's not good for a following. I like the idea of team golf. It's something new. Maybe it's not for everybody, but there needed to be some changes in when Liv started up. Monahan was so anti-Liv, and I don't know what his reasoning was. It wasn't about the moral part of it, obviously, because now he's cooperating with the PIF fund. So
yeah. So okay, all right. Well, that's certainly one of the topics that we definitely can get into. Also, among the topics, clearly we'll talk Longhorn baseball. Toward that end, coming up a little later on this hour, it'll be on the backside of the 10 o'clock hour. Longhorns head coach David Pierce will join us, and he'll be kind of stepping between practice and coaches meetings and things like that. But Coach Pierce is going to join us, get his thoughts on this matchup with the Stanford Cardinal. for the NCAA Super Regional, which has been announced as a Saturday, Sunday, and if necessary, Monday Super Regional. I don't think anybody at all was surprised by that. After all, the final game of that regional last night in Palo Alto was the final game of all of the regionals. So it was the last one. It was on the West Coast and all of that sort of stuff. So the NCAA tries to accommodate that sort of thing whenever that happens. Now, there's all sorts of other machinations and wrinkles and storylines that are going to come out of these matchups with the super regionals, and we'll get to those. And I'm going to ask Coach Pierce about a couple of things, not about specifics of other teams playing. He's dialed in on his team and on the Stanford Cardinal, but the conceptual stuff that has happened with a couple of these, namely the switching of a super regional site to a team that was a number 2 seed and now getting to host, that being TCU. The rub that they went through the NCAA in determining Tennessee and Southern Miss and how they tried to go the Solomon route and split the baby, so to speak, in terms of who's hosting and who's really hosting. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about those things as well. NBA Finals. How you liking what you've seen so far?
It's been exciting. My prediction was Nuggets in 5. I still think Nuggets either in 5 or 6, but it's so much fun to watch Jokic play basketball, Craig, and to see what Miami did in that fourth quarter the other night, shooting 65, 68%.
And it's going to take that.
Yeah.
To stay in the series, to make it a 6 or perhaps even 7-game series, they're going to have to shoot at that clip. Otherwise, I'm in agreement with you. I think there's just too much talent there for the Heat to be able to overcome against Denver.
Yeah, and people will say, well, Miami, they won't be able to do that again. They've been doing it the entire NBA playoffs. They were in the play-in team as the 8th seed, got in, and look what they've done. So that's their recipe for success. And Jimmy Butler didn't even play that great. Now, there's a lot of arguments you can make for Denver. Either way, it's going to be a really fun series. Game 3, I believe, tomorrow night. Excited for it because Miami doesn't have the greatest home court advantage. So I still expect Denver to at least take 1, not maybe even 2. But it's been a great series so far, and I'm glad it wasn't just a sweep.
Yeah. It won't be that. May still be 5, but could go longer depending on how it does as it shifts to South Florida. And may I also say that it was fine going to Coral Gables and being around Miami and Roger Wallace and I went after the Friday afternoon Texas victory over Louisiana. We hopped in the car and raced over to Lone Depot Park to see the Marlins game so I could cross another one check it off my list of Major League parks that I have yet to visit.
We're getting a review of that ballpark today? Okay.
Yeah. So we did that, and like I said, we actually watched Game 1 of the finals at his sister and brother-in-law's house, nice home down in the Coral Gables area, and of course they, like so much of the local populace in the greater Miami area, they're all fired up, about the NBA finals. So we watched Game 1 at their house. Of course, that one wasn't very competitive.
Yeah.
So we watched. Roger and I left, I think at halftime going, we can get back and catch most of what was left. I would also say that in South Florida, there is a group. I didn't see a lot of them. There was a group that was fired up about the Florida Panthers, but now that has been tamped down because they've been dominated by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals out in Vegas. Now it goes to their arena.
Yeah, it feels like maybe even that Western Conference Finals between the Stars and Knights was more of the matchup for the best team.
Yeah.
In hockey. No offense to the Florida Panthers, but the Knights. I mean, their defense even against Dallas just looked like, man, how can he even score any goals against this team? And look what they've done the last couple of games, especially when the offense is on fire and the defense plays as well as they do. They're pretty much unbeatable, it looks like.
Yeah. Our friend John in the base says, hey, on the Specs text line, if you'd like to text in at 512-337-3776, 512-337-3776. Says, Giants are home versus the Cubs here on Friday, Craig. Yeah, I know, John. I did take a note of that. I did take note of it. I did see it. That is going on there. But there's a lot to get. Hey, so I said we'll go to the Specs text line at 337-3776, and someone had texted in. You can add the context of this, although I'm pretty sure I know what this is all about, Cam. It's a screenshot of a Brooks Koepka tweet.
Yes.
Welfare check on Chambly. This is about Brandel Chambly and his comments.
Yeah, and Chambly, and if you didn't know, he is super anti-Liv. He's very adamant, outspoken. Him and Phil Mickelson have a long-going Twitter beef where I think they each have each other blocked on Twitter, yet they will constantly subtweet each other. So now they're going to be back together at certain events. So for those who have been so anti-Liv, I mean, maybe check on
anti each other as a result of that.
Check on your buddies this morning if they've been super against one way or the other.
Yeah, Brandel Chambly, University of Texas, obviously. Irving MacArthur Cardinal.
Yeah.
Went to high school with my best friend Alex up in Irving. They were there just before Brian Bosworth.
Wow.
Just before. I had friends that I knew up in the area who went to high school with Brian Bosworth. Bosworth was a sophomore, I think, when my younger brother graduated from Irving MacArthur. My family moved out from North Carolina right after I graduated high school. I went to UNC Wilmington my freshman fall semester, but my parents had moved out in August of 78. So my younger brother, he's about 15 months younger than me, but he's born on Christmas Day, hence the name Chris. That's why he was 2 grades behind me because of the late birthday. So he was graduating class of 80. And so I guess he would have been a freshman at Bosworth at that time. But anyway, he was there. He kind of remembered him when he was coming through at the time. I had other friends who graduated with him right around that time that knew that. But my best friend who graduated in 79 knew Brandel Chambly during that time and when he had played at MacArthur.
2 All-Americans right there, one in football, one in golf.
Yeah. The old MacArthur Cardinals there in Irving. So anyway, there's a lot to get to. We do have Inconceivable. Here's what we're going to do, by the way. Since Coach Pierce is going to join us right around 10:40. So because of that, which normally runs right up to our Inconceivable time, we are still going to have Inconceivable. Oh, yeah. But we're going to move it early into the second hour. We've done that before when we've had a guest come in. So we're going to have that early in hour number 2 is when we'll bring you Inconceivable. So what we do have is we have a Longhorn Notebook coming up. We do have Coach Pierce with us. And then we'll have and then after that we'll have Inconceivable early in hour number 2. All right, I did want to update folks and let everybody know the schedule for the Super Regionals. Of course, the Longhorns come off sweeping through the Coral Gables Regional and defeating Miami on Sunday night, 10-6 to win that final game of that. There was and I completely understand why, there was a great deal of love and affection that they all had down there for Yohandy Morales, Yo-Yo Morales, their third baseman, and looks like a good major league prospect and all that sort of stuff.
Was he the one, the P announcer, did the big show?
Yeah, kind of went over the top a little bit on that. And I will say this: there are rules by which the NCAA goes when you host a regional, and this is going to, by the way, get us into this whole Southern Miss versus Tennessee thing. But there are rules that you have to follow when you host a region. And what that means is it's basically a pretty pervasive air of neutrality is what they want. They want you to be neutral in terms of the game management, the game presentation, the things that are run on your message boards, on the video boards, and obviously your public address announcements. So like, when Bob Cole was doing regional, everything, you keep it the same way. When Paul Skeens was pitching for Air Force last year, the pitcher or the catcher, Paul Skeens, because he was also a catcher, that kind of thing. And then at the same time, say, the catcher, Silas Ardoin. Just say it all within the same thing. The Miami PA guy, whenever there was a game that did not involve Miami, like Louisiana against Texas or Louisiana against Maine, he was pretty neutral, the third baseman, so-and-so. And he would also tell them, like after a home run, that is Rocafort's third home run of the season. He would just say, but whenever Miami was playing, it was on.
Yeah.
He was the home PA. No, the third baseman, Yo-Yo Morales. So it was like it was going on. So you kind of, even though there's supposed to be guidelines and you're supposed to follow that, you're not really surprised when you hear about that. What did kind of surprise everybody, and it kind of looked at, is when Morales came up in the ninth inning, and he's walking to the plate, and the public address announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the plate for perhaps the final time is a Miami Hurricane, Yo-Yo Morales." And of course, place goes crazy, and people are like looking at him, and afterwards, the Texas dugout noticed it as well afterwards, because we were talking to the coach. They said, did he really say that? I said, yeah, he did. And I will tell you this too. He kind of went rogue on his own, because when I went into the press box to get like some final stats and stuff like that, I heard the game management people, and they weren't happy at all about it.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, you had to make it all about him." He said that's what senior day is for. That's what you do senior day for, is to play that kind of stuff up. So they weren't real happy about it, but it went on. But it's small potatoes. The Longhorns obviously did their part and won. So now they advance to the Super Regional, and of course they're going to play Stanford. And I completely understand why there was so much, what as they say, angst and wailing and gnashing of teeth and all this other kind of stuff about what would happen if it's Texas against Texas A&M. I got bombarded on social media after Texas won Sunday night, both on my Facebook page and on my Twitter. Even though I've changed Twitter accounts now, it's at Horn Voice instead of.
They still found you? Okay.
At Craig Way One. Oh, they found me. And
where are they playing, Craig?
Yeah. And tell us what's going to happen. What's it based on? Oh, it's based on money, isn't it? Oh, it's based on record. It's like just throw any guess, any plausible, possible reason to support a specific point of view one way or another, and it was all being thrown up against the wall. And I was like, we don't know, and we truly don't know. I talked to UT athletic officials after the game. I talked to David Pierce after the game about all that. Nobody knew. And they said that the NCAA was playing it very close to the vest. First of all, they didn't want to put themselves out there over something that might not and ultimately did not happen. So that's why they went completely radio silent on it. It's understandable. And so there were cases to be made on both sides, but ultimately they were going to wait. And so they waited. And Stanford made it all academic or moot or meaningless, however you want to say it, whatever you want to do, because they went out and they beat A&M 7-1. They gave up the early home run to Jace Lavalette, and then after that, the Stanford pitching staff really dialed in and did a tremendous job. So, it was it made it all completely moot. So there was all of that, hubbub and uproar and all this about whether it was going to be there. Then, you had all sorts of creative suggestions as well. Folks said, playing in Waco, play it in Waco, play it at the Baylor ballpark.
Had people ask me, can they play at Dell Diamond? No, it's a state championship.
UIL
this
state
week.
tournaments going on. In fact, there's UIL state tournament action tomorrow at UFC Dish Falk Field. Now, Texas has gone down this road before when they were hosting a super regional, and the only classification that's played at Dish Falk is 4A. But the returning lifetime Longhorn hero, Adrian Alanis, brings his Sinton Pirates.
Yeah.
The heavy favorite.
Number 1 ranked Sinton Pirates.
And defending state champs back in the Austin area there in the state tournament. So there's 2 semifinals at UFC Dish Falk Field tomorrow. The rest of the tournament's going to be contested, obviously, at Dell Diamond, as you pointed out, Cam, starting tomorrow morning. And we'll have more on that coming up next hour in our Flex segment. But Texas has been used to doing that. They work around that because that's on Wednesday and then the championship's Thursday. As we figured, this super regional was not going to start until Saturday. So it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Longhorns would have been able to work their practice schedule around that one game on Thursday. They could practice in the morning like they're doing today. They could practice in the morning tomorrow before the two semifinals will be played, which I'm sure is going to be the case. So they can work it around that. And then I think the plan is for the team to leave on Thursday, but we'll hear about that from Coach Pierce when he joins us. So. I heard all these different suggestions. Played in Waco at the Baylor Ballpark. I think several people said play it in Giddings. Nobody said Mumford. That was going to be my suggestion. If you had to play it in a neutral site, let's all go to Mumford. Let's head over to Robertson County, right? So
MJ from Hearn, right in his backyard.
He'd have been all about that. You know who else would have been all about that? My co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County. A proud graduate of Florence High School and a champion of small-town America and small-town Texas since he grew up in the bustling metropolis of Andice. But you know him best for his outstanding work at Orange 24/7. That's Jeff Howe. You'd have been all about a super regional series in Mumford, right?
Mm-hmm. I talked to someone, college football coach who mentioned Taylor would maybe make a good halfway point.
Yeah. Taylor a little closer to Austin, Mumford closer to College Station.
Lexington, you can get creative.
Yeah. Media meals catered by Snows.
Speaking of getting creative, let's go ahead and take the break now. I want to make sure we got time for Coach Pierce. Longhorn Notebook today is going to be this hour anyway. Very, very short. It's a quickie notebook because I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for Coach Pierce.
Yep. That's the plan. All right. Coming up, we'll have the notebook. David Pierce will join us. We have Inconceivable next hour. This is Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. So, back in town, and I was watching, regional baseball last night, like a lot of folks. And, I know a lot of folks will be watching Super Regional Baseball this weekend, Major League Baseball, Stanley Cup Finals. I know, Tom McKay, you'll be watching Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals, and a lot more. But the aforementioned Tom McKay can help you have the home entertainment experience that you've always desired if it's not the way you want it to be. You want to enhance your viewing and audio pleasure in your den or man cave or family room or living room or outside patio. That's where audiovisual consultations can make the difference. Tom and his staff have all the equipment, the knowledge, the expertise, and the work within your vision and the work within your budget. Tom's not raising the prices like so many others are. And you don't even have to worry about going out and shopping in those big box stores to find that HD TV you had your heart set on or the Sonos sound equipment. Tom and his staff either have it or they can lay their hands on it pretty quickly. So why not check them out on the web at avconsultations.com. Then give Tom and his staff a call at 512-255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. The irony is not lost on me. Cameron Parker, the producer, rolling back with Pink Floyd with Money. Because this is all about the golf that you're throwing that down with, right? But wasn't it always about that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for Rory McIlroy, who spent the last 2 years as the puppet for Jay Monahan, and then it turns out, actually, Rory, by the way, everything you have said the last 2 years, we're going to move away from.
Yeah. But, I wouldn't hurt too much for Rory. I think he's in pretty good shape.
Oh, they're all fine. I mean, what's an extra $1 million?
You've all been hoodwinked, hornswoggled, bamboozled.
That's what I was looking for.
Led astray, run amok.
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff.
Shout out to my man Rod Babers. I'll see Rod here in a little bit.
There you go, because you got a Blitz podcast right around the corner to take care of, right?
Yes.
All right. Before we get to that, obviously, we have the rest of this program, which right now includes our first hour Longhorn Notebook.
We'll make this one a quickie. The Texas men's basketball program has a new strength and conditioning coach. Hasn't been officially announced yet, but Corey Schlesinger, no, not the former Nebraska fullback who played for the Detroit Lions, actually was a teammate of Rod Babers in Detroit. Nice little.
Not related that I know of to Rafe Schlesinger, the outstanding lefty out of the Miami bullpen who really, kept the Longhorns at bay Saturday night, but folks kind of forgot about that the way LBJ was pitching.
Yeah, overshadowed by LBJ doing his best Chad Hollingsworth and going a complete game.
Yeah.
Corey Schlesinger's coming over from the Phoenix Suns. He was most recently the head strength coach for the Phoenix Suns. He's been at Stanford as well. Got a little tip maybe from one of our listeners yesterday who might reside in the Bay Area that from.
Got
to know Corey Schlesinger from his time at Stanford. So that's the new hire. And Craig, strength coaches, I've learned this much since I've been involved in this realm. Every time a new strength coach is hired, it's the best hire. The old strength coach sucked. The new strength coach is awesome. He's going to reinvent the wheel.
It's kind of almost like with head coaches going the opposite.
But the strength coach, it really
does swing.
The bacon really gets overcooked with strength coaches. I've learned strength coach is one of those jobs that, if you're doing it right, you're not really reinventing the wheel. You're kind of just doing your job the way it's supposed to be done. More often than not, strength coaches though tend to screw it up. Like, and we've seen this specifically with Texas football. And I've asked guys that have played in the NFL and lifetime Longhorns. I said, hey, how do you guys know when you got a good strength coach? And they said, one of the ways you can tell when you've got a bad one is when everybody's suffering the same kind of injury.
Ooh.
Remember leading up to that season, I think it was the 2012 or maybe the 2013 season, it seemed like there were 7-8 guys dealing with groin issues.
Yep, I remember that.
If everybody's got hamstring issues, then you're doing something wrong. So we'll see what happens. Now, I'll say this.
What the late George Carlin said about groin injuries,
I don't remember this.
Said, you know how they call them groin injuries? That's the noise you make when you get hit there. Groin!
Pretty much.
Groin!
God bless George Carlin. Yeah. So Corey Schlesinger coming over again, got that NBA experience with the Phoenix Suns. I'll say this, Craig, and kind of to contradict what I just said. When Texas had Todd Wright, they had unquestionably a guy who was well regarded as one of the best strength coaches in any sport in America. And you look at the work he did with LaMarcus Aldridge, even though, Kevin Durant still needed to bulk up by the time he got to the NBA. Look at KD when he got to Texas and when he left, how much positive work Todd Wright had done with Kevin Durant. So he had that reputation, but this is a vacancy Rodney Terry needed to fill with John Riley moving on, and he has now filled it. So, again, like I said, when everybody was complaining about transfers and assistant coaches and whatnot, they're going to field a team. They're gonna have enough scholarship guys to roll the ball out there. They're going to have enough coaches. They'll hire a strength coach, and that process has wrapped up.
Okay. All right. Very quickly here before we get to the break, and then we'll have Coach Pierce join us. Just to let everybody know, this is the super regional schedule. Okay. You're either in a Friday, Saturday, and if necessary, Sunday schedule. Half the games are that. The other half of the super regional schedule is Saturday, Sunday, and if necessary, Monday. Remember, it's best 2 out of 3. And so here's your schedule. On Friday, it starts at 11 a.m. our time. Duke, Virginia. Got a little ACC matchup there with Duke winning in Conway, winning the Coastal Regional, and Virginia winning at home. Then you have the unusual thing, Indiana State at TCU. And we'll talk more about that coming up, about how Indiana State should have been hosting, but declined to host, and we'll get more into that later. Then you have the first of two All SEC matchups. South Carolina at Florida Friday evening at 6. That Indiana State TCU game, by the way, will be at 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock. South Carolina, Florida at 5 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, ORU at UO. Oral Roberts at Oregon up in Eugene, and that is on Friday. Now, Saturday, starting at 11 in the morning, you have Alabama at Wake Forest. Wake Forest, the number 1 overall seed. Then, that's 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Tennessee at Southern Mississippi. The NCAA has kind of said Tennessee will be the quote-unquote host, but Southern Miss is actually physically hosting the event in their ballpark. We'll have more on that coming up. Kentucky at LSU. So Kentucky is, and there's your other all SEC matchup. That is at 2 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, it'll be Texas and Stanford, the last one out of that. So that's the Saturday, Sunday, Monday bracket on there. All right, up next, we're going to visit with Longhorns head coach David Pierce when we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, it's starting to get warm. Starting to feel like summertime around here. You know, I just came from down in South Florida where it was rainy and hot and muggy and humid and all those other kind of things, and they're worried about a tropical storm out there. Around here, in these parts, we're getting ready for the hottest season, and that's where John Hardy and our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar want to remind you, not only do they do great roofs, they're also a full-service solar company. As we get into our hottest season, that's when the higher power bills will start arriving. So why not be prepared? And then you can save money this summer with a new Timberline solar shingle roof. Or maybe you're one of those folks who already has solar. Maybe you got solar panels. Maybe you already did solar shingles. But the one thing you didn't do was to get a backup battery. Well, if you don't have the backup battery, then you're wasting money, because with a backup battery, you're able to use all of the power you make instead of giving it back to the power company. The batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you get that tax credit, and we can all certainly use that. Well, John and his staff are solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar system. Those other roofers you hear about are just selling you a solar roof. Divided Sky Roofing and Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. The crew are master electricians. They're all NABCET certified. That's the solar version of being a master plumber. So why not trust your roofing and solar needs to the experts, our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar? Give them a call, 512-995-ROOF. It's TEC license number 37397, or check them out on the web at dividedskyaustin.com. This is Light the Tower on the Horn, 1049, 1019, AM 1260, here at 1040 on this Tuesday morning. Craig Way, Jeff Howe with you, and very pleased to have join us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, and able to step away just from otherwise a very, very busy Tuesday morning as the prep is underway for the NCAA Super Regionals. Longhorns head coach David Pierce joins us now. But that's the way you like it. Yeah, keep you real busy this time of year. You're good with that, right?
Oh, man, thanks for having me, Craig. I'm definitely busy and appreciative that we are still playing, and I love it. I love this time of the year, June baseball, playoff baseball, and college baseball, and so much excitement around the country. Being a part of the top 16, just having a great weekend at Coral Gables, and then, geez, you're talking about the long road to Omaha. You go from Miami to Northern California, so we're back home right now. But yeah, we started all of our prep and pretty excited.
Have you found over the years, because you've had this team in the Super Regionals in 2018, 2021, 2022, and now 2023, 4 super regional trips in the last 5 full seasons played, obviously, since 2020 got cut short. But have you found of your time that when you get a team ready for super regionals, when you start to do that it's easier than ever, even if it wasn't hard in the past, but easier than ever to see your guys fired up about going to practice because they know what's at hand and they're still getting to practice here in mid-June?
They're just excited. I mean, I don't know if it's easier, harder. It's just something that they've worked so hard for. And I think what's so gratifying for this group is they've kind of separated from the 21-22 team where they were always in the shadows of last year's team and the great players we had and the exceptional super regional that we had at ECU and going to Omaha. And so now they've kind of created their own identity and have a lot of confidence. So when we went into Miami, it's about the environment and kind of preparing for those 2 or 3 teams. And now you kind of set your sights on what you got to be good at in California and what do we have to do better, and kind of the prep of how we want to approach their hitters. They're a very good hitting team. And then just the little details that we talk about all year of making improvements this week. And this week's not really about anything more than prioritizing each individual, what's going to give him the best opportunity to be successful.
David, 2-parter from me. Anything on Heston Toll and David Shaw, how they're doing? And then I know everybody's focused on LBJ and Gino and what they gave you as starters, but how grateful, proud, I don't know what the right word is to use to describe how you feel and what you guys got out of Charlie and Zane in the regional.
Well, first of all, David Shaw and Heston are out for the year. Unfortunately, we lose them, but again, it gives opportunity guys to step up, and they'll be back. When you look at the course of the season and the day-to-day grind and the adversity that every player goes through in this long of a season, at some point they're going to struggle. And for those guys who have had their struggles to be just huge parts of our success in Miami just means that they're still all in. It means that they've never stopped working and believing in themselves. And us as coaches have not stopped believing in them. And that's always been something for me is I'm going to stay with the kid and I'm going to stay with players as long as they continue to work and believe in themselves and don't give up. And it's always been a pretty good formula. So once they are totally committed to making adjustments, then they're in a good spot. And a lot of times guys got to hit rock bottom before they're really ready to listen. But it's not that. I think they're small, minor, simple adjustments. Zane started climbing up on his release point. And so he got back into his natural slot, and there it is. And it's so small that you really have to just pay attention to understand it. And same thing with Charlie. It's just little pieces there. We feel like we can still help Tanner a little bit more and making some adjustments as he's getting back, to becoming a guy that we can really depend on. And that's a tough deal. I mean, people don't quite understand what he's going through to be able to come out of surgery 15 months and then be thrown into a regional championship game and expect him to be just perfect. And he's got to be better if he's going to help us win. But at the same time, we can help him along the way, trust his makeup, and keep working on things.
You mentioned Tanner and going through that. I was really struck by something Garrett Gomez told Roger on the postgame the other night. He said, it didn't go well for him tonight, but he was the first guy, like he always is, in encouraging and cheering everybody else and getting really, really excited about it. That makes it easier to work with a young man who has to go through some bumps in the road, doesn't it, when he's got the attitude and the approach that he's had?
He's just accountable. He's very accountable and he's very mature. He wasn't satisfied at all, but he knew his job was done on the mound, and it wasn't his best outing, but at the same time, he was one of 27 players there fighting and clawing, and so he was going to do everything possible to help his teammates, and his encouragement is huge. I think you see so much of individualized players in college and professional baseball now, and when you look at our team, it's so refreshing. They're selfless, and that's something I'm really proud of. They're into it for each other and the development and success for each other. And Tanner has always been that guy, and he's kind of had this label of a superstar, and sometimes unfair to him just because he has a potential to be so good. But he's so mature, and he learns from his mistakes, and he wants to just keep getting better and help his team.
David Pierce, Longhorns head coach, joining us here on Light the Tower on the Horn. The one other theme that seems to come up, and I've heard TV commentators talk about it for years. Augie used to say it a lot, and I know you probably did as well. When you get to the postseason, unexpected, or at least by the large populace, unexpected contributors have to emerge. Now, you as a head coach are around it every day, so you know what the capability is for guys to be able to step up and contribute when others perhaps weren't seeing that, those from the outside. And I get the feeling you felt that way all along about Jalen Flores and how hard Jack O'Dowd has worked to be able to step up to where he can contribute as well. And of late, Mitchell Daly, who had come out of the starting lineup, but you were still using him as a defensive replacement. I remember you told me that he once said, I just got to get better. I just got to work harder. And I know that's got to give you a great deal of pride to see guys like that contribute to the total cause.
No doubt. And honestly, we started talking about it May 1 and started talking about postseason baseball and unsung heroes, and that's what happens. And it gives them hope. I mean, you have players that look up and go, I'm hitting, whatever I'm hitting, or my ERA is not as good. And just realizing that I can contribute and finish this thing the right way and just get my head clear and go be the best I can. So, yeah, I mean, you just start planting seeds. You just start planting seeds to these guys about what they can do as opposed to what everybody else has said that they can't do. And the expectations are no greater than within our clubhouse. I mean, our kids have great expectations to be great, to also play in postseason and play at the highest level. So, it is a long season, and every player goes through it. But to get guys back and feeling like they can really help this team, such as Mitch and Jalen, and we already mentioned Charlie and Zane, and you can even look at LBJ. I mean, this is a young man that is the ultimate poster child for development. I mean, this guy is a sponge, and he wants to be great, but he's just now coming into his own, and we're reaping the benefits because he's just such a great teammate, and he pays attention, and he has the ability to just repeat what he does, and I think that's key for guys as well. So it's really gratifying when you know that kids have more in them, and then they just keep working towards that, and then all of a sudden their minds get clear, and their confidence builds, and they have success.
David, you've had, you look back at the year Cody had in 2018 and the year Ivan had last year, and you look at what DC's doing this year, and it's in that same realm. But I'm just, Craig and I were talking about this the other day, I'm just continually fascinated by the fact that when we watch him, you just watch him walk around the facility or around BP every day, you wouldn't know if he's got a 38-game hitting streak or he's over his last 38. How remarkable is it, just kind of how even keel he seems to be all the time?
Well, I think what he's learned in the last couple of years is selflessness, and not that he was ever selfish, but just maturity and understanding the work. He wasn't the best worker as a baseball player day in and day out when he first got here. And so he contributes that to his work and to his teammates' work. But he is the funniest guy on the team and easygoing all the time. And when he plays loose, that's when he's at his best. And some guys need to create a little more of an edge. Some guys need to just really have a relaxed mentality. They all need to relax their bodies and create less tension. But DC's just a unique guy, and he's fun, but he's so talented. I mean, I think he may be the closest to a five-tool player I've ever coached, to be honest with you. When you look at speed, defense, his arm strength's really good, but then you add it to his transfer, it makes him even better. And then, he can hit the ball all over the place. He can lay a drag down, and then he can drive the ball out of the ballpark. So this kid's got a lot, and he's just a fun kid to be around, and he loves his teammates. And I think because of that, he has success as well.
David, let me get your thoughts on Stanford. I know, obviously, you were zeroed in and watching last night. I know you're very, very familiar with guys like Tommy Troy and Alberto Rios and Eddie Park and Braden Montgomery, their two-way guy. I want to start with the pitching because that had to be fascinating to see the way that David Esker had to manage his pitching, and Quinn Matthews, all of the innings and all the pitches he threw, and probably, I'm just guessing, he probably wouldn't be available for the opener Saturday night. He's the lefty, and then you got the two righties, Matt Scott and Joey Dixon. How about your thoughts on what you saw from the Cardinal and what you know about Stanford as you get ready for this Super?
Well, all year everybody's known that they have a really good lineup. I remember back in 2003 when we played them in the national championship, the 2 out of 3 series, the championship series. And we wouldn't even let our pitchers watch them hit. They were so good. So we just made them stay in the clubhouse and wait till the game started. And they're physical, but they can run. They can utilize the short game when they need it. They can drive the ball out of the ballpark. They're a well-rounded offense. And then you look at, I don't know why this is going on. Then you look at their pitching, and at times people discredit their pitching because their offense is so good, but their pitching and defense is outstanding. So this is a really talented team. You look at Quinn Matthews, and he's just this wiry kid that just competes well, and a little quirkiness to him, but he goes up to 4 and really pitches. So I think that they're just going to be a team that we're going to have to attack and make them earn everything they get.
Is
and
it?
If we do that, we give us our best options, our best chance of winning.
David, I mean, not that you had any say in the choice in the matter anyway, but is it a little bit of a break for your guys that it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, a chance for everybody to catch the breath, you to get some work in at home, and then get it before you head out on Thursday?
I think it is more so about the time change. We'll be in 3 different time zones this weekend or this week. I mean, we were East Coast, we're back in Central now, and then we're going Pacific time. So I think it's important for us to try to get out of here earlier Thursday, just so we can get a little quicker acclimated to the time. Hopefully we can get a workout there Thursday afternoon, and then our official workout on Friday. But I do think it helps us because we extended some arms as well, and just being from one side of the country to the other side, I think just the rest in between is going to be important for us.
I got one last thing to ask you, Dave, before we let you go. And this is this unusual thing. It just seems like it's been more unusual this year than any that I can remember in college baseball with regard to regional hosting. And you had the weird thing at Kentucky and the dorm situation. It was unfortunate, obviously, for West Virginia, for all 3 teams, Ball State and Indiana there with that because there weren't hotel rooms available. And then we hear about TCU getting a chance. Nothing against TCU, and they may be the hottest team in the country right now. But Indiana then yesterday going, oh, by the way, we can't host because we got Special Olympics coming in and we don't have hotel rooms and all this kind of stuff. Do you see this as just a byproduct of what happens this time of year, or could the D1 baseball committee perhaps do with a little closer examination when regards come with regard to examining potential regional hosts when the bid process goes in and what obstacles might be out there for these teams?
Yeah, the committee has a tough job. Don't get me wrong, but I think when you look at so many teams jockeying for position to host, I think all those factors should come into play, and you should have the ability to accommodate fan base, especially teams, umpires, and so having that set in place and the prep from the committee could make a decision of whether Indiana State hosts or they travel, even as a number 1 one seed and travel. We did that one year, 2002. We went to Arizona State as the number 1 seed because the University of Houston did not, they didn't bid. But even so, there's so many teams that qualify to host that I think all those factors need to come into play.
Yeah. By the way, to your point, Tennessee traveling to Southern Miss as the 1 seed for the Super Regional this week. So you got that going on. Hey, I know you got to jump into meetings and things. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it. Thrilled to have you join us for a few minutes, and look forward to seeing you on Thursday when we head out all out to Palo Alto. Thanks so much for the time.
All right, Craig, Jeff, I appreciate you guys. Hook 'em Hornets.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
That's David Pierce, Longhorns head coach. And, it's something I haven't really gotten too much into. We'll do more about that coming up after the top of the hour. But it's just bizarre the way more so. And I understand the position Indiana State was in. It's not really their fault. And maybe they were expecting Arkansas to win. And they were going to have to go to Fayetteville if Arkansas had won anyway, and wanted to make sure that they could host a regional and didn't want that to be jeopardized, their opportunity to host based on the fact that they would not be able to host a Super. The question is, did all that come out? And if it did the D1 baseball committee take a close look and then say, okay, well, they deserve to host a regional and we'll deal with it if they would be in line to host a Super. Well, now they're having to deal with it, And TCU's happy that they're had to deal with it.
I'm still blown away by his comment about DC. He's as close to a 5-tool player as he's ever coached. You think about from his time at Rice, Sam Houston, Texas, the guys he's coached. I mean, you go back and think about guys like Joe Savory, Anthony Rendon,
Start to say, I think of 5 tool. I kind of think about Rendon.
Yeah, I mean, he's coached some really talented guys, and where Cody was at the end of his time here. To say that about Dylan Campbell, that tells you how talented that kid is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, coming up, we have much more to talk about: college baseball, the NBA Finals, the apparently impending merger between the PGA Tour and Live Golf. And yes, we've got Inconceivable coming up next hour as well. So you want to stay tuned for that. We're with you up till the top of the hour, top of the next hour. And then it'll be Chad and Zay, and that'll be coming up after us. But we have another hour of the program to go here. We're Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital here on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Second hour of Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Wade, Jeff Howe with you, our producer. Cameron Parker alongside. Thanks again to Longhorns head coach David Pierce joining us here a few moments ago. As busy a time as it is right now, we do appreciate the coach taking a few minutes to visit with us.
A reeling Cameron Parker, by the way.
Yeah. So thanks to David Pierce taking a few minutes to join us here as he was talking about getting ready for the Stanford Cardinal in the Super Regional Series that begins Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock. You'll hear it here on the Horn. We'll begin at 4:45. Okay, Cam Parker, you're reeling. Was it? You went the pickup route again last night?
Yeah, just
basketball. That is pickup basketball.
I told Jeff trying to box out a former linebacker was not a good move last night. So I'm gonna try some cryotherapy.
It's a dang coaching mistake.
Now, a former linebacker where?
Believe he just said he played somewhere like D2, but he's a big guy. So it's not like I'm trying to box out Jalen Ford or something or Brian Bosworth as we talked about earlier in the show. But I'm not, man. I'm just not what I used to be, guys. Man, starting to. I feel like Kevin Love in the Heat right now. Just maybe coming in for 9 minutes a game, a couple outlet passes here and there.
You're like Bernie Kosar with the Cowboys. You're a little beat up, but hey, man, you're good for a little spiel every now and then.
Yeah,
just maybe not the full go thing.
Yeah. So, just
the days of playing 2.5 hours every day during the summer.
Not going to happen.
Just not going to happen.
Okay,
anymore.
All right.
Craig, people forget, and I forgot. I used to say, Bernie Kosar caught on with the Cowboys to win a ring. Until you go back and really think about it, and he played a really pivotal role in that '93 season to get them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Aikman got hurt during the season. He finished out the NFC, and then he finished out the NFC Championship game.
Yes, he did. That's true.
Bernie Kosar had a productive year with the Dallas Football Cowboys.
Yeah. So,
see, that's two things that are out of Cam's frame of reference. Me mentioning Cam, you're aware of who Bernie Kosar is, right?
Of course, Jeff.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Are you aware of?
He played for the Washington Bullets, right?
Are you aware of Bernie Kosar's daughter?
No, I don't know
what her profession is. If you throw that in the Google machine, make sure you go to private browsing. Just FYI, it will not safe for work. But Cam also has no frame of reference, Craig, about the Cowboys making it to an NFC Championship game, let alone winning one.
Seriously, that actually happened. Like Cowboys were actually a mainstay in. Wow.
See, when I was in elementary school, I was like, man, this is great. The Cowboys go to the Super Bowl about every year and win it. This is awesome. Being a Cowboys fan is great.
When I was in school there in the 70s, the Cowboys, that's when the whole America's Team thing came up with the highlight video from NFL Films and all this other kind of stuff. And they became equally, depending on what part of the country, loved and reviled because they were so successful. I grew up in North Carolina, which at the time had a lot of Washington Redskin fans because Washington was the closest. Well, Atlanta was there too, but the Falcons were awful. They were still very early in their franchise.
We're talking about that yesterday when we were talking about Tommy Nobis, why his Pro Football Hall of Fame candidacy isn't better because the Falcons were
terrible most of his career.
Gridiron diarrhea might be the best way to describe the Atlanta Falcons at that point.
Yeah, they didn't get good until the late 70s. Steve Bartkowski and that group there that won a couple times. But even then, they lost back-to-back or lost twice, I guess, in 40 years to the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Did any part of Joe Gibbs being from the Charlotte area and his connections with NASCAR, was that any influence in you becoming a Redskins fan?
I was never a Washington fan.
I thought you just said you
no, I said a lot of North Carolina. You know me. I was always a Rams fan.
Okay.
Ever since I was a little kid. No, I never rooted for Washington. My dad did, and he had grown up in North Carolina, and he did. But he liked Washington because first when Vince Lombardi first went there from Green Bay and had the one turnaround season, 7-5-2, and great things were forecast for what Lombardi was going to do. And then he was diagnosed with cancer, and then he was gone before he could coach a second season. Then they went through a down year, and then George Allen came in, having coached the Rams, and built them up in the late 60s with a fearsome foursome and Roman Gabriel and Jack Snow. That was the Rams team that I liked when I was a little kid. And, George Allen came in and with the Over the Hill gang in 71 got him to the playoffs in 72, and he really ratcheted up the hatred for the Cowboys. It started building, by the way, in the late 60s. Bob Lilly could tell you that and all that when the Cowboys and the Redskins were playing. But it was when George Allen was coaching that the real animosity started and the real heavy-duty rivalry, Dallas-Washington rivalry. Washington beating Dallas handily in the 72 NFC Championship year when Washington went to the Super Bowl and lost to unbeaten Miami. And then the next year, the Cowboys getting past them. But there were great moments. There was a Monday Night Football game in October 73 when Washington's up 14-7 and the Cowboys are driving for a tying touchdown in the winning seconds. Then on a fourth down screen pass from Craig Morton, who was having to play, a screen pass off to Walt Garrison, Ken Houston comes up and makes one of those Stoney Clark-type tackles, just stopped him in his tracks. And Washington held on for the win. You had the Clint Longley Mad Bomber game, Thanksgiving of '74, when they beat Washington on the late touchdown pass to Drew Pearson. Even though that year, '74, was the year the Cowboys' playoff streak snapped from '66 through '73, 8 straight years. They didn't make the playoffs that year. The Cardinals got into the playoffs that year when Don Coryell was coaching them, and you had Washington get in. So. And he had all of these games. That's 79, Roger Staubach's final regular season game, the great comeback in the pass to Tony Hill in the corner of the end zone for that one. They had all of these singular moments that fed the Dallas versus Washington rivalry.
See, if you're an older Cowboys fan, older than me, if you're an older Cowboys fan, Washington is the rival.
For me, because that's where it went.
For me, in my era of
Eagles.
Cowboys fandom, it's the freaking Eagles, man.
Yeah.
I hate.
See, I feel like for me, it's the Giants.
Hate's a strong word, but I hate.
Well, you know
the
where,
Philadelphia Eagles.
and I think you'll agree with me on this, Jeff. You know where that started from? Buddy Ryan.
Bounty Bowl, yeah.
Yeah. It started in.
Were you in that post-game press conference where Jimmy, what did he say? He's like,
ran his fat butt at her?
Yeah.
Yes, I was there. I was there for that. I was there.
When the toilet seats at Texas Stadium were frozen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's one thing that I think is really good about the NFC. You just mentioned you think of the Giants as a bigger rival because you think of what? Eli and them denying the Cowboys getting that win when it looked like Dallas was going to win for sure, and then the Giants go on and they beat New England in the Super Bowl to keep them from going 19-0.
Well, when the new stadium opened up, Eli Manning owned it.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was every year we watched the Giants and the Cowboys, and every year Eli Manning and his noodle arms somehow would find a way to beat Dallas every year. So I grew up disliking the Giants. Plus, they were two-time Super Bowl champions, right? And Eagles weren't
07
there
playoffs,
yet.
The Patrick Creighton game.
Yeah, exactly. So your example and your example for both of you is why the NFC East was so great for so many, because they all hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
where it was before Bounty Bowl, really, where the Buddy Ryan Cowboys thing started.
When he was with the Bears?
No, I saw a video on this, and it's fascinating. So 87 was the strike year, and there was a game in Philadelphia, and I know Tony Dorsett had crossed.
No. Randy White did, and Tony Dorsett called him Captain Scab.
Well, Dorsett was back. Randy White was back.
He came back afterwards.
Danny White, I think the Cowboys had almost a full complement of players. And the Eagles were still playing with mostly replacement players. Mm-hmm. And there was a play late in the game. The Cowboys are beating the hell out of the Eagles, and they threw a pass, something. Basically, Buddy Ryan felt Tom Landry was trying to run up the score.
Yeah.
So they played later in the season, and Buddy had Randall Cunningham late in the game where the Eagles were winning, had Randall Cunningham just chuck one as far as he could to the end zone. And that whole deal with the Cowboys, basically because Buddy Ryan thought Tom Landry was trying to run up the score on a bunch of scabs, that started what we knew as the late 80s, early in the mid 90s Cowboys-Eagles rivalry.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Buddy Ryan, even when he was the defensive coordinator for the Bears, they came in on Thanksgiving and beat the Cowboys
44-0.
44-0. I was in that locker room afterwards. I always remember Richard Dent talking about Steve Pallure having played quarterback. Pallure manure, he kept saying over and over again after that. But that strike year, 87, the thing about that strike year is that it which wasn't nearly as prolific as the 82 strike year, where they lost 7 games off the schedule and played a 9-game schedule off of that. But it's funny that Washington won the Super Bowl in both of those strike years.
That's right.
82 and 87, because they said 87, Joe Gibbs kept the team together. Remember, the Cowboys had Kevin Sweeney at quarterback for a little bit there, but Washington stuck together, took some lumps, and then got it together.
So you're saying 2 of their Super Bowls don't count. That's basically what you're saying.
If they played the games, they count. They count. Everybody participated. one team won, it counted. That sounds like something from somebody who didn't win. It's just like the same things I heard as a Dodger fan about the 2020 season. The truncated season, blah, blah, blah.
Or as an Astros fan, I hear about the 2017 season.
That's different. Cheating is different than actually when everybody's playing under the same rules.
Yeah, you see, you bend it. You step up to the line, Craig. You're not. I wouldn't call you a habitual line stepper. But you're getting right up to it.
There is a marked difference between convicted cheating and everybody playing under the same rules.
Convicted, like it's an episode of Law and Order playing out on the baseball field.
I watched that Yankees-Dodgers 30 for 30 the other night, and they were talking about Billy Martin or Reggie Jackson and George Steinbrenner, and Billy Martin said, one's a born liar and the other's convicted. or like the time it was Dwayne Thomas was talking about Tom Landry and Tex Schramm.
Yeah.
And he said something about he said about Tex Schramm. He said he's a liar and he's demented. And Tex said, well, he got one of them right. So anyway, that's the kind of the fun of the arguments there. All right, speaking of fun, why don't we roll right on in to a little second hour Inconceivable. Yeah, I had a little shift of Inconceivable to hour number 2 because David Pierce joined us in hour number 1, and we were happy to have that. First of all, since we'll keep it on the sports deal, we hadn't even gotten to this story yet, so I'm anxious to hear Cam's take on it as well. How about this deal with Isaiah Rodgers?
What's the deal
with Isaiah Rodgers of the Indianapolis Colts? NFL investigating him for what they call, in quotations, pervasive sports betting, which included wagers on the Colts. By the way, he's trying to step in and do a little damage control. Took to Twitter last night and said, addressing the current reports, I want to take full responsibility for my actions. I know I have made mistakes, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to repair the situation. Last thing I ever wanted to do was to be a distraction of the Colts organization, my coaches, and my teammates. I've let people down that I care about. I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that those mistakes are rectified through this process. It's an honor to play in the NFL, and I've never taken that lightly. I'm very sorry for all of this. Yeah, apparently he had placed what were called hundreds of bets via an account opened by an acquaintance, and a number of those wagers reportedly came from within the Colts facility. That also violates the NFL gambling policy. Most of the bets were in the $25 to $50 range, although there was at least one low four-figure bet. The Indiana Gaming Commission also confirmed it. So that's bad. That's bad for him. And I know a lot of folks are calling in to question the intelligence level of doing that, attaching your phone number or your bank account to it by setting up those kinds of things through an app.
I was going to say it's kind of like Jerry Springer paying for a prostitute with a check when he was the mayor of Cincinnati. Like, you just don't leave a paper trail. But now it's a digital paper trail. So
okay. Cam, how are your thoughts on that?
This is my issue with it, right? Betting has become such a huge part of the sport, and now they're a huge sponsor of the NFL. You can gamble in stadiums, you can do all this.
DraftKings, FanDuel.
But as a player, you're not allowed to. I understand if you're gambling on your own team and stuff, but I mean, it's June, so what's he betting on? The NBA Finals? I don't understand that.
WNBA.
Now, you can go ahead and make the argument that he's stupid for, putting his name in when he already knows what happened to Calvin Ridley. But we're getting in the gray area here when gambling in DraftKings and FanDuel is becoming such a huge part of the NFL. Yeah. But now the players can't partake. I don't know. It's
the one that blew me away was the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. There's a sports book in the stadium.
But it's not for the players. That's the difference. And by the way, this empirical evidence apparently shows that he was placing bets on his team last fall.
Oh, okay. See, that I didn't hear that part.
Yeah. So
then there we go.
Well, that's burying the lead a little bit. So yeah, now that that's out there, it's okay.
Yeah. So just saying.
Well, there was other players who weren't gambling on NFL, right? They were gambling on other sports.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay. We've got some legal things we've got to get to. Some other legal things. First of all, a man in Germany has received his last warning.
Yeah, we did this one yesterday.
Okay, all right. So you did that about the 26 drug dealing conviction there.
Yeah,
800 euros, $855. American is his retirement pension. He's like, look, I gotta support myself, right?
Someone's opas, dealing in the ganj.
It must be. So, and I saw a poll about this. Do you favor just giving him one more warning? You're on double secret probation for this, or should he get prison time?
82, man.
Dude's 82.
He ain't got much time left. Just let him live his life.
It wasn't a violent crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Marriage one is bad.
Yes.
But
all right. Speaking of the legal process, did you do the story about the New Braunfels traffic stop?
No.
Do you know what this is about? This
stolen bratwursts.
No. Our friends at KI had this story, and it was a routine traffic stop in New Braunfels last Friday. You ever been stopped in New Braunfels? You've been through New Braunfels many times.
Many times. I don't think I have, actually.
I don't think you've been stopped, and I know you haven't been stopped for what this turned out. Well, it was a routine traffic stop. Alfonso Villarreal and Roddy Fernandez, both of San Antonio, were stopped. It didn't say why they stopped them, but that doesn't really matter because once they did a seizure, a search, by the way, a backpack was found in the trunk of the vehicle, and it contained, this is quite the backpack, 9 gallon-sized bags filled with meth.
Hello.
Substance later
Somebody's
confirmed.
getting ready to party.
Estimated street value exceeding $100,000. Both Villarreal and Fernandez were arrested without incident, charged with manufacture/delivery of a controlled substance. Can we just say a Walter White crime, right?
Yeah, that puts you away for a decent amount of time there, brother.
20 pounds of meth found in the backpack there.
20 pounds of meth.
Yeah, 20 pounds of meth out of that.
Sounds like a band that's playing down on Dirty Six.
Yeah. Okay, got another story. This has to do with your interpretation of what you think or how you feel a therapy dog or emotional support dog, how much, no pun intended, how much leash should they be given, like in public areas?
Well, here's the deal. I've found out that people can kind of manipulate the system. There are some people who legitimately need, their support dogs.
Absolutely.
Their therapy dogs. Their service animals. But then I hear about people manipulating the system. Like you see TikToks where people are like, oh, yeah, I fudged this. And
I got my dog this.
Had my doctor sign this, and I can take my dog anywhere.
See, that would never work with my dog because she would give it away. She's a dead giveaway that she is no therapy dog. The only therapy my dog is to herself. Yeah. She doesn't. She dislikes people. She dislikes other animals. She would give it away. And say, well, that's not a trained therapy dog.
My old lab that we had to put down in January,
yeah.
Molly would have been a great service dog.
She would have been a great service dog.
Our lab that we still have, Daisy, would have been a terrible service dog.
Well,
according have to move. She's not a fan of.
According to a TikToker, a woman went into a store and she said she was approached by a manager. She needed to put her dog on a leash. The dog was not on a leash. Service dog. The reason why she said the dog is off leash is per ADA requirements because it has to do with allergy detection dogs. So the dog goes and it sniffs different foods to see if it's got allergens.
Why do you need your dog to do that?
Person. Because it depends on the ingredients, and the dog can apparently
but can't you just ask? And guess what? If nobody's there to ask, don't eat it. Go somewhere else.
Well, the TikToker responded by saying it was at a grocery store. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let me finish.
Gosh, my head's gonna
finish.
Explode.
No, you might, if not change your mind, you might have a little more understanding when you hear it. The TikToker responded by saying the dog has to smell the products. Manager refused and said, I don't want your dog coming in smelling my groceries.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with the dog sniffing a jar of peanut butter, but I don't think I would want it licking a head of lettuce either.
Right, it can't be just rooting around in the produce section or the deli.
Okay, she said, I've been coming to the store for years, never had a problem. I've seen real service dogs and fake ones, but never been told that my dog can't do her job. Then afterwards, it's a direct violation of the Americans with Disability Act. According to the ADA website, if you're working at a business or a state or local government facility, you are not allowed to request any documentation that the dog is registered, licensed, or certified, because they said, let me see the papers. I said, nope, can't do that. So then they went back through, and the store apologized for it as well. Manufacturers can fail to note common allergens, and service animals can be literal lifesavers for those with severe allergies.
You should know what you can and can't put in your body.
Right.
You shouldn't need the dog to sniff it out.
Well, like I said, it might not be as readily available to you in terms to understand what's available to the naked eye.
Can't you just use like Instacart and
No,
look at the
then
ingredients?
Don't eat it. Yeah, then don't eat
and
it.
then order it.
Get something else. This is going to slide. Like, people are going to be able to do this. The next thing you know, you're going to have dogs like rooting around in the deli, and I turn the corner like, oh, I need to go get some lunch meat, and there's a dog on the floor with like a big thing of like boar's head roast beef just going to town. Like, what the hell's going on here?
It's going to go to that. I don't think it's going to go that far about it. Anyway, so they're trained to go and sniff that.
See, this is why we're headed to a bad direction in terms of the way our society is trending right now.
Let me tell you what's headed to.
We've already gotten there, I think, Jeff.
Oh yeah, we're beyond that. We're beyond saving.
Let me tell you what's going in a bad direction. First of all, I'm not comfortable with the term TikTok influencer. Okay? That's just one of those phrases I'm not real comfortable with.
I'll be 100% honest, Craig. That's one of those that just makes my brain power down.
Okay. Because every time I see a story about someone who's listed as a quote-unquote TikTok influencer, something bad happens to that person.
Like, oh, they're going to do a skateboard stunt, and then they trip and get a road cone jabbed up their backside.
A TikTok influencer live streaming himself drinking bottles of a Chinese spirit called Baijiu. And so he live streamed himself drinking several bottles of strong alcohol on China's version of TikTok. Yeah, he died. He died. The influencer was known as Sangyanj, or Brother 3000, was found dead just hours after broadcasting himself taking part in a competition with a fellow influencer, which involved drinking this Baijiu, which is a Chinese spirit with a typical alcohol content of, wait for it, 30 to 60% alcohol. One of his
Natural
friends,
selection, folks.
Yeah, one of his friends told the outlet that the guy Sangkanj, who identified by his real life surname of Wang, had taken part in an online challenge known as PK against another influencer in the early hours a little over a week ago, and live stream the results. And he died. He died. So that's why I'm not comfortable with the term TikTok influencer, because if nothing else, the TikTok influencer feels he or she has to do things to continue to influence because he's on TikTok. I'm an influencer.
And people see that, and then they also do it, like the whole Tide Pod
It's a Tide Pod bit. Yeah.
Now that I'm more concerned about than a dog sniffing the food in a supermarket. Just got to say.
It's natural selection, man.
Mm.
I can't help people at that point, you know?
Okay. Coming up, we'll have our second hour Longhorn Notebook. We also have a Flex 30 update that we'll do when we continue. Light the Tower on the Horn. This is Light the Tower on the Horn. Since we just did Inconceivable, we usually do a cleanup from hour number one, and when we do it at the end of hour number one, we can do the cleanup right now because already folks are responding. They said TikTok is like Jackass on steroids and a never-ending stupidity supply of people not having anything else to do. I remember my mom would have to pull me by the ear to get me back in the house for dinner. And now it's the opposite. It's moms wanting the kids to go outside and play, but they're hypnotized by their phones, video games, tablets, and TVs. Yeah.
Hey, parents, you know how you regulate that? Take it away.
Yeah.
There's a concept.
That was a pretty effective punishment when I had to do that with one of mine. Somebody else said when I drink several alcoholic beverages, I ended up all right. Because the guy's name was all right.
I mean, we've all been there at one point, right?
Yeah. Beaver Lance Jason asked if we did that story about the man deliberately crashing his plane to get YouTube views.
See, dude.
Yeah. So multiple cameras and slick editing. Trevor Jacob. That sounds like one of Rod's shady names.
It's two first names, man.
Yeah, Trevor Jacob documented the dramatic moments when his small plane crashed into a Santa Barbara County hillside as he parachuted to safety. It was a video entitled, "I Crashed My Airplane." So it got hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Turned out it was all staged.
You know, what a shocker.
Yeah, he pleaded guilty to a felony charge of obstructing a federal investigation after admitting to intentionally crashing the plane to get views on his YouTube channel, according to the United States Department of Justice. He faces up to 20 years in prison.
Good. Hey, here's the deal, right? And Cam, I may want to retract something you and I said last segment. I don't think we're devolving as a society. Like, since, when Christ was roaming this mortal world, like we've had idiots in society, right? It's always been the very ignorant amongst us. Mm-hmm. It's just now because of social media, we know about all of it.
You get to see him. You're made more aware. Well, this happened last November 24th. Prosecutors say he took off from the Lompoc City Airport in a single-engine aircraft designated for Mammoth Lakes. About 30 minutes later, while flying over the Los Padres National Forest near Santa Maria, the YouTube video, and there's a picture of it, Jeff, shows him saying that the engine had failed. He jumped from the plane, videotaped himself parachuting to the ground. Cameras mounted inside and outside of the plane showed the aircraft descend and eventually crash into dry brush. And his quote was, "Holy bleep, I'm over the mountains and I have an engine out." He jumped from the plane, recorded himself parachuting to the ground. Cameras mounted inside and outside of the aircraft showed it descending. He said, "Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, higher power, for watching over me." He then hiked out of the forest. He flagged down a driver. Prosecutors say he waited 2 days to report the crash to the National Transportation Safety Board, which told him to preserve the wreckage. He stalled the investigation by telling NTSB officials that he didn't know where the plane went down. More than 2 weeks after the crash, on December 10th, he and a friend flew a helicopter to the crash site and airlifted the wreckage. It was loaded on to a trailer, and then he took off from the airport. He drove the wreckage, unloaded it in a hangar. He then cut up and destroyed the airplane wreckage, and over the course of a few days, deposited the detached parts of the wrecked airplane into trash bins at the airport and elsewhere. They also say he lied to federal investigators and an FAA safety inspector when he told them the plane had lost power and could not find a safe place to land.
Okay, if you're going to dispose of the airplane, why would you do it at the airport?
Yeah.
The first place they're probably going to go look?
Yeah. So he had his pilot's license revoked last year, and then now he's been found guilty of this. So thank you, Beaver Lance Jason, for that.
This guy sounds like a real winner.
Yeah.
Hope that couple thousand YouTube views you got was worth it.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of viewpoints, both in agreement with you, Jeff, and in contrary to you. One says the ingredients are listed on every product, talking about the dog sniffing the thing. Can this moron read, this grocery store will lose customers for the sake of a high-maintenance prima donna? And somebody else said, let that dog smell a pack of bacon and see what it does, if it'll eat it. So there was that. And then somebody with a contrary point of view says, Jeff, food manufacturers hide MSG all the time in their labeling. I pray no one you love ever has an allergy to this neurotoxin. It's brutal. Have a great day.
Okay, I'm not like discrediting people who have food allergies. Like, my daughter is at the age where we're having friends over, and we got to make sure we got to check with the parents. Hey, does your kid have any food allergies? And parents are honestly, yes. This kid's allergic to peanuts. This kid, one of my daughter's friends was over the other day, has a gluten intolerance, and there's a whole list of things you can't eat when you have a gluten intolerance. So I get that. I totally 100% get that. I'm not naive to that. But you don't need your dog to go sniffing stuff through the grocery store to figure that out.
Well, according to the American Disabilities Act, they can.
The problem I have with this is, there are idiots who are using this and gaming the system as a reason to take their dog everywhere, and you're detracting from the people that really need it.
She claims that she's a person who really needs it. So anyway. That was her story in the story there. With regard to the airplane story, female listener number 1 says the airport's the only one with trash cans big enough to hold the wreckage there.
If you've got a helicopter, why not just dump it out in the ocean?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, it said, this year was my first year teaching high school. I spent most of the time explaining common sense to kids. I'm a welding
instructor. Good Lord, dude.
And somebody says, Whiny Jeff is back.
Well,
so there you
go. I hope you missed me. No, the welding instructor, dude, that's one of those deals where, man, if you lack common sense and you're working like in the wood shop or whatever, dude, that's a trip to the hospital. I wonder if this welding instructor, the first day of class, you just scan the room real quick and I'm like, all right. That kid, and that kid. We're a couple weeks away from a trip to the hospital with this group.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Okay. How about we do a Flex 30 update? Can we do that? I think we can do it. Sure, we could do that.
Let me just say this before you guys get to the flex. There's a difference between me being whiny and me asking a simple favor of people that to get around in society and function properly, that you reach down around your south end till you feel your head of hair, grab it and promptly remove your head from your sphincter, and then proceed to function normally in society with your knowing about your surroundings, having your bearings with you. That's all I ask.
Okay.
A little common sense goes a long way.
Okay. UIL State Baseball Tournament. And there is one area team, as we know. It's the Westlake Chaparrals. But we did want to give you the schedule for this because it starts tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with the 1A semifinals at Dell Diamond. Abbott, which just got through playing for a state football championship. That also explains why they've only played 25 games this year. Abbott against Kennard.
The Fighting Willie Nelsons.
Yeah.
Little kegs and eggs, huh?
Yeah. They're not for high school kids.
Hey, you've been around some of them high school tailgates. That don't stop people.
Stop. We're not promoting underage drinking here.
Oh, I'm not talking about underage drinking. I'm talking about the adults.
Oh, okay. All right. Different issue then. Bottoms up. The other one, Nazareth and Fayetteville is the other 1A semifinal. Those are both at Dell. 2A semifinals at Dell Diamond are at, first of all, next chronologically would be the 4A semifinals at UFCU Disch-Falk Field. At 1 o'clock, Canyon Randall against Liberty Ilo from up there by Texarkana. And then at 4 o'clock, yes, you have defending state champion, top-ranked Sinton at 37-3, Adrian Alanese's team. taking on China Spring, which knocked out Taylor. They're at the Baylor Ballpark by winning the last 2 games of that. So those are the 4As. The 2As start at 4 o'clock at Dell. Harleton and Collinsville. You know where either of those places are? Harleton, Collinsville?
Nope.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
All right. Harleton is out in East Texas. All right. And Collinsville is in Cook County. It's up north. It's just southeast of Gainesville. It's kind of between Gainesville and Pilot Point. I believe it's on Farm to Market 372. So it's there. Collinsville Pirates there. That's the first of the 2A semifinals. The second one, you know where Shiner is. So you got the Shiner Comanches playing New Home. You guys know where New Home is? I bet you do, Jeff.
It's not ringing the bell.
Out by Lubbock. It's a bit north of Lubbock there. Okay. All right, so there's your 1A, your 2A, and your 4A. Then on Thursday, you get your 5A semifinals at Dell at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. First of all, you got a 1A state championship at 9 o'clock Thursday morning. Then you got a 2A championship at noon at Dell Diamond. Then you've got your 4A championship at UFCU Dish Falk Field at 6:30. The 5A semifinals are at 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock at Dell on Thursday. Magnolia West against Frisco Reedy. And then Argyle, first year in 5A. Of course, they're jumping right into it and doing quite well. And they're playing Bernie Champion, who, of course, knocked out Rouse in the 5A semifinals. Then Friday, you have 3A semifinals at Dell Diamond. 9 in the morning, Boyd and Maypearl. You know where Maypearl is, right?
Yeah, it's on your way up to the Metroplex.
There you go. It's between Waxahachie and Itasca, really.
Not Waxahachie, as was being said time and again during the Coral Gables
really?
regional. Yeah.
For Roy Philpott bringing the Waxahachie there.
I made that mistake before.
Yeah. So anyway,
at least you fixed it, Cam.
Yeah, it's in that's in. So anyway, Maypearl there in southern Ellis County, but Maypearl will play Boyd. And then at noon, Corpus Christi, London against Wall. That's at noon. 6A semifinals at Dell Diamond. You have Cy Woods out of the Houston area and Flower Mound Marcus. Flower Mound High, not Flower Mound Marcus. It'd be Flower Mound. It's listed as Louisville Flower Mound. I can tell you the people in Flower Mound don't really much care for that. That's like
why is that?
That's like saying Austin Vandegrift.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, it's not. And Flower Mound is they do it because it's in the Louisville ISD. That's why. But they're in their own city in Flower Mound.
When you go to the state championships for swimming and diving, on the scoreboards they list Vandegrift as AUSVA.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before, so every time I'm looking for the scores, what is OSFA?
OSFA. Okay. Yeah, right.
But never heard anyone call it Austin Vandegrift.
Yeah.
Except the UIL, apparently.
Well, and this is kind of the inconsistency there because they don't list Vandegrift as Leander Vandegrift because they're not in the city of Leander, but they are in the Leander ISD.
Yep.
Yet, here is Flower Mound, which is in its own city, Flower Mound, but because it's in the Louisville ISD, is listed as Louisville Flower Mound. That's why I say there's not a lot of rhyme and reason, a lot of those. Sometimes it comes down to the school preference. And then at night, I got Westlake listed as Boston Westlake, and that's more by identification thing.
Yeah, not Austin ISD like some news might try to.
So it's Westlake against Pearland. That's there. And then on Saturday, the 3 state championship games remaining, the 3A at 9 a.m. at Dell, the 5A at noon, and the 6A at 4. So there it is. Are you working any of those?
Not working it. Probably will be spectating. But for those who are wanting to see possibly maybe Texas A&M this week in the Super Regionals, didn't get that. The Pearland Westlake game, that's basically the state championship. That's the number 1 team versus the number 3 team.
I will disagree with you.
Really? Really?
You hadn't seen Flower Mound.
Okay. Well, based off the rankings, it number 1 and number 3, I would think so. But it will not decide.
There's a reason they're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Okay.
So I'm not saying Westlake's not going to win it, by the way. I think they're the best team right now.
Yeah.
But I think Flower Mound is pretty good. I'm just saying. Not that Pearland isn't. I'm just saying. To say that Westlake Pearland's for the state title, I think is a bit premature.
Okay.
That's my point. Okay. All right. There's your Flex 30 up. Do we have time? Do you have some material here for a Longhorn notebook?
We can hit it real quick. It's
Let's hit it
more
real
recap
quick
than anything.
here.
In case you missed it in the first hour, Corey Schlesinger hired as the new Texas head strength coach for men's basketball, replacing John Riley. If you missed our interview with David Pierce, go to the podcast page at hornfm.com. I think that's also on the Twitter machine, on the Horn's Twitter account, at the Horn ATX. You can go get that, the link to that. The big news there was confirming the news, and this hadn't been made official, Craig, but it is official now since David Pierce told us. David Shaw and Heston told done for the rest of the year. That's not a surprise,
right?
But it's official in case anybody didn't know.
Neither were on the trip to South Florida for that. So so you've got those two bits of news, and then we got the schedule for the Stanford Super Regional came out this morning. It's the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday if necessary. The only game time that has been set so far is the Saturday game 1. It'll be a 5:00 start local time. That's right. And then they'll go from there to see how they take it further. All right, we'll be back to wrap up today's edition of Light the Tower here on the Horn.
Craig and I were talking earlier in the show off mic about, Big 12 Media Days, coaching school. That stuff's getting around the corner, which means football season is not that far away. And before it gets here, make sure that you're going to be watching football this fall in the best way possible by getting your home entertainment setup upgraded, courtesy of Tom McKay and the folks at Audio Visual Consultations. 512-255-8678 is the number you need to call, 255-8678. Make that call that I did a few years ago. And now I've got my home entertainment set up exactly the way I want it for my football Sundays and the occasional Saturday when I can watching my games on a 75-inch LG TV, crystal clear picture, making the walls thump with that Sonos sound system. AV Consultations has the latest smart TVs and the latest in Sonos audio in stock. And if they don't have it, Tom McKay's one phone call away from getting it for you. So whatever your needs are, maybe you need something a little bit smaller than that setup like I've got, they can do that too, no problem. Or if you want to really watch football in style and get you a full tilt home theater experience with a 150-inch screen, I know Tom McKay would love to get you set up with that. Just call him right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Call right now and let Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams.
Okay. So here's the. You asked me at the start of the program, Ken, for a little review of Lone Depot Park.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not great.
Did you get to swim in the fountain?
I did not. Did not do that. And the thing that bothered me the most. Remember when the park opened? They had that big artwork thing of a fish, and it looked like a big roulette wheel. They moved it outside.
What?
It's not inside anymore. So
it's like a monument, right?
Yeah, but now it's like stuck to the outside of the building there.
I'm sure that's not an eyesore for anyone.
Most domes are not going to look that great from the outside anyway. We've heard all the stuff about Globe Life looking like a big barbecue grill. It looked like a just a big old oval type of thing. It wasn't that. The inside lacked imagination. It was just kind of blue seating kind of wrapped around. It wasn't like fans were like close up to the deal. I did see one really good field level stadium club, and it was beyond left field, beyond the left field fence. But otherwise, wasn't too much. I walked around. It wasn't so much.
Friends that have been there have said the same thing. It's just like, it's all right.
Yeah, but I would put every other dome stadium I've been in ahead of it. Every other one.
Even Globe Life?
Milwaukee, Toronto.
Astrodome?
Well, it's hard because it was built in a different time and place. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah, so it'd be difficult in that respect. I like the Astrodome better for baseball than football. I can tell you that.
What about that dome in St. Louis?
Well, that's a football dome.
Yeah, but I'm just talking dome stadium.
Yes, better. Absolutely. That I change. I correct myself. There is one that's worse than that.
Belton County. No, okay.
No. It's Tropicana.
Wait, why are you disparaging the Bell County Expo Center?
That doesn't count. It doesn't have a major league team there. I'm talking about a major league or NFL type park.
I will not have Expo Center slander on this show, sir.
All right. We're done for today. I will be back tomorrow. Got one more show tomorrow. I leave Thursday morning.
I'll be here tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, I will not be here on Thursday.
Oh, well, I guess we're going to have to make some arrangements.
We will.
All right.
It'll be the Cam show on Thursday.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that coming up. We'll be back with you. We invite you to stay tuned as Chad and Zay are up next. For our man behind the glass, I'm producer Cameron Parker, and for my co-host Jeff Howe, I'm Craig Way. We thank you for joining us. We'll visit with you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, right here on Light the Tower.